Hey guys, it is Dan, and we are live again with Tim. Hey Tim.
Hi.
Wow, nice to have you back in quote unquote studio for another Dan Does Disney. We're talking about the Legend of Lobo, and this is a hard one to track down.
Yeah.
Disney Movie Club exclusive. I assume we didn't look it up, but I assume this is probably one of the ones you can rent for like $4 on Amazon, like a lot of them. But it's nowhere to be found on Disney Plus.
Nope.
This is only the second release I believe it ever had on home video. It had a VHS release in the mid 80s, possibly Laserdisc as well, but all at the same time. And then one DVD release. That's it. Short movie too.
Yeah.
67, 69 minutes, something like that.
Something like that.
And we talked off air. This might be another very short one.
Yeah.
For the reviews, we did what's the boys' choir?
Almost Angels.
Almost Angels was our shortest one yet for Dan Does Disney. We'll see how this one compares. I do actually have a few more notes I think on this one than I did on the other one. So this is almost the end of 62. We're in November now. And this is based on a collection of stories by Ernest Thompson Seton, which Tim will, of course, tell us about. But he was one of the founding members of the Boy Scouts of America. So this guy was all about the outdoor life and, living with all of that. Filming was on location for this in Sedona, Arizona. One thing that is unclear is if this is natural footage or if the animals were trained. I couldn't really find any sort of information about that, or if it was sort of a combination of the two to fit the story, because obviously they're based on stories that already exist.
I feel like it was a combination of the two.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Obviously they had a sort of outline for the story because of the books, but yeah, it's so very like Disney true life adventure kind of thing.
Yeah.
That it's hard to tell sometimes. So this to me, I think, is basically a true life fantasy.
Yes.
Right? Like we did that already with Perry.
Perry the Squirrel.
Perry the Squirrel.
But that was advertised as a true life fantasy. This was not.
This, and I think maybe even you could throw Nicky Dog of the North in there, I think are like unofficial like members of that sort of book,
That definitely had a little bit more plot.
Yes.
And humans and
speaking.
And songs and stuff than this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So James Algar, who did most of the Disney Nature films, he co-wrote and co-directed this. So the music, the song that they keep repeating over and over again, the Lobo song, was written by the Sherman Brothers, who we know, of course, from Mary Poppins.
But it was
it was sung by the narrator,
the Son of the Pioneers or something like that.
They sang. Yeah, I don't know if they sang it. I don't know.
They sang something.
They sang the other songs, I think.
Okay.
There was a couple like other songs in it that I think they sang. But I believe that the main song was sang by Rex Allen, who was the narrator.
Okay.
But you and I know him best as the grandfather at the end of the Carousel of Progress.
Yeah.
In Disney, and who was the original father, and then when they redid it in, I don't know, the late 90s or something, they made him the grandfather. So that was kind of cool.
When I was looking up his IMDb, they had something as performer for Tomorrowland, and I was like,
yes,
he was dead by that point. But I guess they had the Carousel of Progress.
So Carousel of Progress, which premiered, I think, at the 64 World's Fair or something, he was the dad. He was the main character through that whole thing. And then now they just have sort of a little nod to him doing like the laser discs, whatever he says, as the grandfather. But then, yes, you mentioned Sons of the Pioneers.
Yeah.
And you remember where we first heard them.
They were in one of the medleys that we did.
Yeah.
It was the one with the...
It was Pecos Bill, then the other one was Shadows on the Trail.
Yeah, it was Roy Rogers.
Roy Rogers was part of the group at that time. Here's what I learned about the Sons of the Pioneers. They're still a performing act. Oh. They're apparently one of the longest running music acts of all time.
Is it the Sons of the Sons of Pioneers?
At this point, I don't even think there's anybody actually related anymore. I think it's just like the name now. But yeah, Roy Rogers was there for a while. There's one guy that's been in it since the 80s. And most of the other people have only been in it like within the last 10 years or something. But yeah, apparently they're still an act. They still perform. And yeah, at this point, we're like 3 generations removed.
That's where we first saw... was it the first time we saw Bobby Driscoll? And that Laura...
Yes, Laura... Oh, what was her name? Oh, I can't remember. That would have been before
Yeah.
So Dear to My Heart,
Yeah.
I think, right?
And then they were
Yeah.
And then she was also
Luann, was it Luana Patton?
Luann
Is that what it
Patton,
was?
yes.
So Luana Patton and Bobby Driscoll. I do believe that's right.
Yeah.
That was the first time we saw both of them. All right. And the only other thing I really have is that this never aired, like a lot of the movies we've done. This never aired on the Disneyland show, and there's no real official reason why. But the couple articles I read were like, well, it's kind of too short to break up into 2 chapters, and it's too long unless you cut out like 20 minutes of it to air in one show. Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense that they just never did it. So that's really all I have in the background. But yeah, let's talk about the old Lobo.
Okay, so like Dan said, it's based on Lobo, the King of Currumpaw by Ernest Thompson Seton, and that's from his collection of stories from his 1898 book called Wild Animals I Have Known.
Yeah.
So he was a natural...
Which makes sense, because Boy Scouts would have, I think, created in the 1890s.
Yeah. But he was like a naturalist, so he just kind of like observed animals, and like I guess he observed this Lobo character. So Lobo, a Legend of Lobo, it follows the life and adventures of Lobo, a wolf born and raised in southwestern North America. And we are introduced to Lobo as a 6-week-old pup of an equally famous wolf, his father, named El Feroz. And we see his curious nature as he interacts with the environment and other animals. We also see his father hunting for food and things like that. We see Lobo grow up. He deals with death. He finds a new pack. He takes a mate, and he starts his own family. However, during this time, he is feeding off cattle and creating his famous reputation among the ranchers. What will happen when there is a price on his head and a professional hunter from Texas on his trail? And that is the Legend of Lobo.
And this is like a real, it's kind of like not a tall tale, but like it's a real legend of
a wolf.
Theoretical wolf,
They had pictures of wolves that he was wanted dead or alive for capture because he was eating all their cattle. And that was the Legend of Lobo, and this guy wrote a story about that, and then he somehow, I don't know how much of that story went into this movie, but as Dan alluded to, this is the beginning half of this movie is very much true life adventure.
Yeah.
Not even true life fantasy, because
like they're really telling us the history of the wolves.
Yeah, they're telling us history of the wolf. There's some I would say natural footage of a baby wolf cub.
I think so
interacting with a turtle and falling down a hill, and he's cute and he's rambunctious, and then a actual wolf hunting different things. I think that's all natural. But then I think they also had trained wolves. Like, there's no way they would have just somehow get footage of a wolf crossing a log bridge.
Yeah, I think to bring some of the story elements along, they had to tweak and bring in professional animals or whatever.
And that's what they did for the Perry movie.
Yeah.
They had trained squirrels do certain things, but it felt like the trained squirrels were only in that one weird dream sequence.
Yeah, which was weird.
It was so weird, but they had a lot of trained squirrels for that. But I feel like this did a lot better of a kind of narrative arc of Lobo the character than they did with Perry.
I think to me this was more of a template to the current Disney Nature movies, because with the bears and with the ones we've seen in the last decade or so, they all sort of do follow that one person or the one animal, and Perry didn't quite capture that spirit that we see today, whereas I think this did a little better in that department.
But I feel like the now Disney Natures, they don't have the scripted elements of...
No, they scripted it afterwards and figure out what the story is.
They have so much footage that they make the story where this is based off a book, or a story, and they kind of crafted it from there, and they're like, okay, this is what we need, this is what we don't need. So you mentioned the narrator. His name is Rex Allen, and he narrates a handful of other Disney things, a handful of animal shorts for Disney, and a lot of other animal shorts not for Disney as well.
Oh, okay.
And, But we'll have a couple coming up of full-length ones. The Incredible Journey, which then got remade as Homeward Bound.
Oh,
he narrates
yeah.
that.
Okay.
And then there was a TV one called Run, Appaloosa Run, which is about a horse. I don't think we'll have to watch that one. That was in 1966. Incredible Journey is next year in 1966.
Oh, okay. It's coming up then.
Yeah.
The next year we're covering.
The next year we're covering. And then in 1967, there's one called Charlie and the Lonesome Cougar, which I looked, and it's
More animals.
It's on our list.
Okay.
And he narrates that.
Interesting.
And then you mentioned James Algor, the director. We've
seen him a ton.
Yeah, the most recent one we did was Jungle Cat, which was the last true life adventure.
So he didn't do Nikki.
Maybe he did.
I feel like he's done most of the.
I thought maybe that was Winston.
Oh, that could have been Hibbler.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm
well,
not
let me.
sure.
I'll look it up here. Yeah.
But he also did the most controversial one, which was White Wilderness.
Right.
Pushing the lemons off the mountain.
Right.
And then I also found this fun fact about him. I didn't know this because I was looking at his directing, and they gave him a director credit for Fantasia 20.
Really?
The director.
The new Fantasia.
And I was like, he was dead for that.
He for sure was dead.
And it was credited for the Sorcerer Apprentice sequence. And then I went to look back at the original one, and he's uncredited. And then you click on it, and it gives him the Sorcerer Apprentice. So he was a director on one of the most famous sections of Fantasia.
Okay. So Nicky Dog of the North was co-directed by Jack Cofer, who I think was the co-director of this, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I was thinking that. Yeah. Okay, and that actually makes sense because this did have sort of a similar feel.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you go on IMDb, there's only one director, and that's James Algor. If you go on,
really?
Yeah, if you go on
Wiki had the two.
If you go on Wiki,
what did the movie say when you watched it?
I don't remember.
This says screenplay by Dwight Hauser and James Algar. Okay, who was it directed by? No, it says both.
I know.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
But IMDb usually is more authentic than Wiki, I guess.
Yeah, I tried because I went on IMDb because I like how they kind of list movies more than Wiki. Than Wiki for some reason. Because Wiki doesn't always have everything.
I know, yeah. I probably use Wiki as a crutch too much. But, well, it could be something where maybe he is the director, but this Jack Colfer, maybe he had it in his contract or something but maybe he didn't do anything. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought this was a bit of a mixed bag, Tim.
Yes.
I liked some of the things that they were doing, and I think the visual component is really great. I mean, now that we're in the early 60s, because those first few true life adventures, I feel like were early 50s, maybe even late 40s? Is it all 50s, maybe?
I think that 50s... I think maybe we had one in 60. I think.
Okay, yeah, I think the last one was a 60. But yeah, I mean, so over the course of now 10, 11 years, I mean, they've been able to really, I think, up their game and what they're capturing and what they need to look for and stuff. I liked the true life adventure part of this, the first half, a lot better than the second half. First of all, the song was too much. It was like Davy Crockett all over again. It was like every, 8, 9, 10 minutes we had a new verse of the Lobo song. So that was getting old. And then for a part, they did like a hoedown revival for and it wasn't as long as the hoedown, but for 20 seconds they did this really corny orchestration, and they were I forget what scene it was even in, but I was just oh God, not this again. But that was the only time they did it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I forget. It's
it was
I've seen this.
Oh, that's true. You watched this a little while ago since we had to swap the DVD. It was maybe a half hour, 35 minutes in, and I was oh man, is it going to be like this? But it was sort of the moment where the story kind of shifted from what I think is more of a true life adventure to the fantasy portion.
Was it the fighting with the badger scene?
That's what it was. Yes. I knew it wasn't quite dancing like the old hoedown was, but yeah, it was the fighting scene.
I didn't think it was as bad as the hoedown.
Not as bad, but it was only 15, 20 seconds, and I was kind of bracing myself, okay, are they going to keep doing this now? Otherwise, I think the orchestration was fine. But I don't know, I feel like this should have been maybe billed a little bit differently, because it's half education.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I do think that the true life adventure half of it was very educational.
Yeah.
And it was very cute as the pup.
I love the turtles too.
The pup Lobo and the turtle and everything. I thought that was done really. But when he does get older and it is more narrative of it, I do feel like the story does not hold up as much.
Right.
And I feel like maybe that's because you're missing the educational part of that you kind of got used to in the first half.
Yeah.
But I did think it did a lot better than Perry. If that's the template of what we
if
have.
that's our baseline, I guess yes, it was better than Perry. In many regards. And
I did think it was interesting that there are no, besides the narrator, there are no human characters that have speaking lines.
The hunters and stuff don't say anything.
No,
they're there.
I thought it was a good way to have it from like the wolf's perspective, because the wolf wouldn't understand like what they were saying or anything like that.
Right.
So
I did like that part.
I did like that. I do think it's kind of a mixed bag.
That was one of our buddies too. The one hunter was that Emil Guest or whatever his name is from. What was the movie he was in? I forget now.
I think he was just in Almost Angels, maybe.
Is that what it was?
Probably.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because there was some little language barriers in that movie. Yeah, so that was one of them.
Or maybe it was also.
But he might have been in a couple of them.
Big Red, maybe. Was he? There was a French guy,
maybe
French guy.
You're right.
Big Red.
I don't know anymore. They all of these nature ones and the animals. They are starting to blend together for me. But I think you are right. Yeah, Big Red had the French person. So, but yeah, I did think that was a good choice. I just thought the movie was kind of at odds with itself. Like, what's funny is they could have put this on Disneyland and just aired it as the first half as the true life adventure of the wolf. Yeah. Or whatever they want to call it, and not really even do any of the second part. Yeah, the structured part did not work for me. And I don't like that it wasn't billed as such. Like, at least Perry, for all of its shortcomings, and there were a lot of them, at least said right away and up front, like, okay, this is not going to be a true life adventure. We're going to sort of tweak it a little bit, and it's going to be this thing, which also didn't work.
But they didn't build this as true life adventure either.
No, they built it as nothing. They built it as a completely narrative film, but that's not true. That's not right either.
Yeah.
Like the first half hour is certainly documentary.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a movie at odds with itself.
I think they didn't want to. Well, True Life was done.
Yeah, True Life was over by now.
But I think the Perry experiment was like, we're not going to build anything as True Life.
Not really soured
anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't think they knew what to build it as, and I think they were just like, okay, we're just gonna build it as its own thing and see if it works out. And
I couldn't find any box office about it, so I don't know if it was a success or not.
No, I would imagine it's somewhat successful because we have other movies that
come after that.
Seems like it's like this. We have not our next one, but the one after, or two after that. The second movie in '63, because we have one more in this one. So 3 movies from now, we have The Miracle of the White Stallions, and we have a couple years later we have Charlie and Love's and Cougar, and
so obviously it must have done enough business that they were like, okay, let's keep trying it.
I think they just they like animals.
They do, and that's fine.
I think they did a great job with the trained animals of the wolves to do the necessary things that they needed them to do.
Yeah.
To get the shots of the story.
Yeah, I feel like if there was no story that it was based on and they could just kind of do whatever, I feel like maybe they would have done more like what they do now.
Yeah.
And sort of frame it based on what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, the story involved with Lobo is fine. But yeah, I just think this is, as a movie, is just odd.
Yeah.
And the song, the repeating of the Lobo song over and over again. It's not as catchy as Davy Crockett either.
No.
It's good.
That's okay.
Sherman Brothers, they do it, but yeah, I think that was a better use maybe of the music in Davy Crockett. But all right, what else do we have to say? This is already longer than Almost Angels.
Okay.
So we got that at least.
Yeah.
We got that check box. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else, I don't think.
No, I don't think I have anything else either.
Yeah.
I already put my sheet of paper down.
Well, there you go. So that's it for you then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think what you said about it being from the wolf's perspective. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Because especially with some of the true life adventures, we've seen more of like how do humans feel about this, or how do humans deal with this? And here we do see a little bit of that with the hunters and stuff. But
I do think Rex Allen was a good narrator as well.
He was. Yeah.
And I think I prefer his voice over Winston Hibbler.
Yeah. Winston Hibbler is the one that does Winnie the Pooh, right?
Yes.
Isn't that?
Yes.
Which, he's great Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
But as a documentary narrator, I do think he leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he did a great job during like the True Life Adventures, but after watching 6 of them, I just was like, I'm kind of
right.
It's like I was kind of over him, and like it was nice to not have Winston Hibbler.
Yeah,
it's nice. To
I
have
agree.
A different person giving me information.
All right. Well, I feel like I might be a little lower on this than you.
Okay.
Because this was a bit underwhelming for me. But I do like the first half of it very, very much. So I'm going to give it a C+.
No, that's where I'm at.
Tim, all right.
Yeah.
Two of the same here.
I think it was...
I debated between C and C+, but I'm like, I think it,
That's
like you said, the
too.
narration's a little better. The footage is great.
Yeah.
So I think it's enough to give a slight recommend, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't see any reason why this shouldn't be on Disney Plus. I mean,
yeah, if they went a little harder with some of the like actual like slaughtering of the cattle, then I could see okay, maybe, but it's actually kind of tame compared to some of the things we've seen.
African Lion,
Nicky Dog of the North, like some of these have been.
That wasn't on Disney Plus.
Oh, that's right. African Lion was. Okay.
African Lion was, and they show
everything.
Baby lions just carrying like
there's nothing remotely like that here.
A dead zebra carcass, and like this one has some of that, but not,
I laugh because it's so horrible that they show that.
But this one has a little bit of like animals eating off like bones and stuff. But it's nowhere near like African.
Nothing like that. Yeah. So I don't know, but like we've talked about a lot here in 62. Most of these movies are not on Disney Plus for whatever reason. We don't know.
There was one movie.
Yeah. It was the Almost Angels.
Almost Angels.
Which wasn't that... I mean, it was okay, but... Yeah. All right, so the next one we decided was Son of Flubber?
No, that's going to be the first one in 63. Okay. We have one more in 62, and that is In Search of the Castaways, which is the Haley Mills movie for 60.
Oh, yeah, we haven't had Haley Mills since... what was she? Was she in Bon Voyage? What was the last one we saw her in?
Parent Trap.
It's been that long?
Beginning
Wow,
of
I love a good Haley Mills, too. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was a very good one, Parent Trap. You already watched it, so you know your thoughts on the Castaways. I have not seen it yet. I can't imagine it's as good as Parent Trap, but I guess we'll find out. That's maybe one of my best. At some point, we should do like a best of the, maybe once the decade's over or something. We should do a best and worst of the 50s since we've already done that decade. All right. Well, anyway, so we'll look forward to those coming up. We'll start 63 very soon as well. That's it. Tim, thanks for joining.
Yeah, no problem.
We wore our Disney best for everybody today.
Ohana, it means family.
Ohana means family. I learned that more than anything from that Better Nate Than Ever on Disney Plus.
No one gets left behind.
No one gets left behind. Right. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see everybody next time.